Hey, what's up, everybody? This is just another edition of Unnecessary Wagers. Just a video today where I give you my picks. We're not doing a whole show. There's only two games this weekend to pick from the final four games. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Liam at LiamMTGP. And you can watch all Empty the Bench shows on youtube.com/ETB Network. And you can listen to all Empty the Bench podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to like and subscribe. All right. So just again, quickly recap everything. It was a wild weekend of March Madness. Looks like the magic is back. Look, I'm a St. John's fan. I was a little disappointed with how the game ended, but the way I see it is that St. John's was really just overmatched that whole game. They weren't a better team than Duke. The issue, like a lot of people were saying that St. John's was just was gassed at the end of the game, or that maybe if certain things go a different way, they could win that game. Sure, maybe if Caleb Foster doesn't play that game, which in a regular season game he probably wouldn't. In a lot of circumstances, St. John's easily could have won that game, but also in a lot of circumstances, they easily could have lost that game by a much bigger margin than they did. A whole lot of things went right for St. John's that normally wouldn't go right. Like somebody like Ruben Prey, who doesn't play very much, going 4 for 4 from three. I mean, it's very unlikely that something like that is going to happen. And they played a good game. They played tough, but ultimately they were overmatched. And Duke is really was a better team than St. John's. That's really all it is. I mean, one of the biggest issues I have with St. John's is that their guard play is not good. They have all their guards can't shoot. Ian Jackson has been terrible most of the season. Dylan Darling's been good. He did have that game-winning layup against Kansas when in a game that he didn't score the rest of the game, by the way. So we don't have really the best scorers, specifically shooters. We don't have good outside shooters, as our guards are not good outside shooters. So when that happens, you're certainly going to be vulnerable. I mean, the strategy is usually just to let St. John's shoot, and to an extent, it often works. And then UConn comes back to beat Duke in what was a game that Duke really had no business being in. It looked like Duke, for the first half of that game, was completely overmatched. It was unbelievable to me that UConn was able to come back and win that game, because Duke is just a much more talented team. But all they had to do was hold the ball for 10 seconds. That's it. All they had to do was hold the ball for 10 seconds. And they couldn't do that. And the reason I see it a certain way is because, look, Duke against UConn showed that, look, Duke, the problem is, and I said this on the podcast, they're the type of team that lets teams into game, that lets their opponents into games that they really just have no business being in. And that was the issue. That was the biggest issue I had with Duke, is that, like, look, UConn had no business winning that game. UConn had no business being in that game. At one point, they were shooting 1 for 18 from three. I mean, that is, even by college standards, that is terrible. And Duke still let them back into that game. And that was really the issue with Duke all season, or for some of the season at least. Look, I don't think St. John's really should have been so close to beating Duke. Duke is a much more talented team than St. John's. But that I think really was their issue. So let's go into the final four games. Illinois -1.5 versus UConn over under 139.5. I think I really like UConn in this game because Illinois has been good, no doubt about it. They've been surprising. Both teams have been surprising. I didn't expect either team to get here. But one thing that UConn has an edge on Illinois is experience. That's a big thing. Danny Hurley's been there a bunch of times. UConn, just like they did against Duke, who is the number one team, who is who's the number one overall seed, by the way. UConn was able to stay in that game, which, like I said before, had no business being able to stay in that game. I think UConn often figures out a way to win games And the other is Tarris Reed. I don't know if Illinois really has an answer to Tarris Reed. I mean, Illinois is a good defensive team. They're a big team. I don't doubt that. But, for all we talked about Duke making mistakes in that last second 3-point shot, which was almost a half-court shot by UConn, the biggest reason UConn was able to beat Duke is because they had no answer for Tarris Reed. Tarris Reed went off. He went up, I think he scored like 26 points. He was just unbelievable. And I don't know if Illinois is going to have an answer, because there's two things that I really care about in college basketball if teams are evenly matched. One of them is experience, and the other is who is your best player. And when it comes to who the best player is on the court, I think it's probably Tarris Reed. And I don't know if Illinois will have an answer. Maybe they'll have a better answer than Duke did. But Duke was also a number 1 seed. If Duke didn't have an answer, maybe Illinois won't have much of an answer to Tarris Reed either. So I like UConn plus the 1.5. And then moving on to basically what you can look at as almost the de facto national championship game. Probably the two hottest teams other than Duke, maybe Duke, the two hottest teams Michigan minus 1.5 versus Arizona over under 157.5. This is an interesting matchup because both of these teams have so many parallels. The only difference is that Arizona won their conference and Michigan didn't, but I would say both of these teams super dominant in very similar positions, both 1 seeds, and both coming off really amazing wins. I mean, Tennessee and Purdue were both rolling, and Michigan destroyed Tennessee. Arizona destroyed Purdue, both coming off very similar types of games, and are both really great teams in slightly different ways. I mean, one thing that I can tell you about Michigan is that they're a much better 3-point shooting team than Arizona. They shoot a lot of threes and they shoot them well. They do it efficiently. They have a bunch of guys off the bench who can shoot threes. Arizona's different. Arizona's really, really good down low. Michigan's good down low too. They both have players down low that are really good in the post. And I think in this game, I still like Arizona more than Michigan. I think Michigan's been great most of the season, but I'd have to say Arizona has been a bit more dominant lately than Michigan. Arizona has not lost a game since, I think, Arizona hasn't lost since February 14th. They lost 2 games all season, both of them back-to-back against Kansas and Texas Tech, and that was the Texas Tech team with JT Toppin. So it was a Texas Tech team that's a level above the Texas Tech team we saw lose to Alabama. And that is, Arizona, they've just been so dominant. They haven't lost a game since February 14th. That's unbelievable. And I think Arizona has just displayed a level of dominance that Michigan hasn't. The other thing is just the style of play. I think both of them have really good players. I think both teams have some really good players that are great on both sides. Both have very good head coaches. In that sense, I think they're both even. The other thing, though, is I sometimes like the team like Arizona, which is really good in the post and a little bit less reliant on shooting threes. I'm not saying Michigan completely lives and dies by the 3, but it's worth noting that Michigan, they shoot a lot of threes. Arizona is really, really good at defending threes. So that's another, I think, important factor, which is that they're very good at defending threes. Arizona, they don't shoot a lot of threes anyway. The only thing that I think would hurt Arizona would be if they have to play from behind. A team that doesn't shoot a lot of threes, they can't play from behind as easily. But maybe part of the reason Arizona doesn't shoot a lot of threes is because they play from ahead so much. So they don't need to shoot threes. They can shoot threes. They do it efficiently, but they do it sparingly. So I think that the way I see this game is that I think Arizona wins it. I think they've been a little more dominant. I think their style of play is a little better. I really think that ultimately Arizona will win this game. So, I guess we'll see if I'm right or wrong about either of these picks. So enjoy the games. Good luck with your bets, everybody. See you guys. I'll see you guys next week on Monday. I'll be previewing the national championship game. So see you guys then.